An indie horror film made on a small budget shocked Hollywood, terrified audiences around the world, and went on to become one of the biggest box office success stories of the decade. Now fans are asking the question everyone saw coming. Will Obsession return for a sequel? While Obsession 2 hasn't received an official release date yet, new updates from director Curry Barker and industry insiders are giving us our clearest picture yet of what's happening behind the scenes. So today, we're breaking down everything we know so far about Obsession 2, including its development status, possible story, returning cast, the growing Obsession universe, and when the sequel could finally arrive. Let's get into it. Obsession 2 is in early development. The sequel is already in early development following the massive success of Obsession, but the approach this time is very different. The first film's unexpected box office dominance pushed the studio to immediately consider a continuation, but director Curry Barker has made it clear that he is in no rush to release a sequel just for hype or profit. Instead, he wants the next film to feel raw, emotional, and genuinely unsettling, rather than something rushed to match demand. Early reports confirm that discussions started soon after the film's $287 million success, but the project is being carefully shaped before moving into full production. This slow and controlled development shows that Obsession 2 is being treated more like a long-term creative expansion rather than a fast sequel. It also raises a bigger question about modern horror, whether taking more time actually improves storytelling or risks losing audience momentum and interest over time. Do you think delaying a sequel makes it better or worse? Would you rather have a fast follow-up or a carefully built story? And does long development kill hype or improve quality? Expanding horror universe. Obsession is no longer just a standalone story, because it is now evolving into a larger, interconnected horror universe. Before Obsession 2 even arrives, a new project titled Anything But Ghosts is already in development, starring Aaron Paul and Bryce Dallas Howard, and scheduled for a 2027 release. What makes this important is that both projects are reportedly connected, meaning Obsession may exist inside a wider supernatural timeline with shared events and deeper lore. This shifts the franchise from a single story into something much bigger, where each film could reveal more pieces of the same dark universe. At the same time, there are early discussions about turning Obsession into an anthology-style format, where different characters face similar horror experiences instead of continuing one fixed storyline. This direction could either expand the fear across multiple stories or weaken the emotional core that made the first film so powerful. Do you prefer a shared horror universe or standalone stories? Should Obsession become an anthology franchise? Or does that reduce the impact of the original film? Plot details. The story direction of Obsession 2 is still being carefully shaped, but early details suggest the sequel will dig much deeper into the supernatural rules and emotional consequences introduced in the first film. The sequel is expected to expand the mythology behind the obsession phenomenon, exploring where it comes from, how it spreads, and why certain people are more vulnerable to it than others. Instead of just focusing on surface-level horror, the story may push into psychological territory, showing how obsession slowly distorts perception, memory, and reality itself. Reports also suggest that Nikki's journey could evolve in a darker direction, where her connection to the supernatural force becomes more complex and possibly more dangerous than before. At the same time, the expansion of the universe through Anything But Ghosts may directly tie into the sequel's events, meaning Obsession 2 could feel like a turning point for the entire franchise's mythology. This makes the sequel not just a continuation, but a deeper exploration of how far the horror universe is willing to go. Do you think the sequel should focus more on psychological horror or supernatural explanations? Would you prefer deeper lore or more mystery? And how far should the story go in revealing the truth behind Obsession? Anthology versus direct sequel. One of the biggest creative debates around Obsession 2 is whether it should continue as a direct sequel or shift into something more experimental. Director Curry Barker has teased the idea that Obsession might expand beyond a traditional linear storyline, potentially becoming an anthology-style franchise instead of a single continuing narrative. This means instead of following the same characters, each film could focus on new people facing different supernatural horrors connected by the same universe. While this approach could keep the franchise fresh and unpredictable, it also risks breaking the emotional continuity that made the original film so impactful. A direct sequel would allow deeper character development and stronger connection to Nikki's story, while an anthology structure would open the door for endless horror possibilities across different settings and characters. Which version would you prefer? A direct continuation or an anthology horror universe? And do you think changing structure helps or hurts the franchise? Inde Navarrette returns. Nikki, played by Inde Navarrette, played a key emotional role in the first Obsession film, helping ground the supernatural horror with human fear and vulnerability. Because of that, many fans expect her to return in Obsession 2. But current development hints suggest the sequel may not stay focused on a single main character. Instead, the story could shift into multiple perspectives or even a broader anthology structure, where different people experience the same supernatural force in different ways. This creates a major storytelling challenge, because removing Nikki as the emotional center could weaken audience connection, but keeping her as the only focus could limit the expansion of the universe. Her role now sits at the center of a major creative decision that could define the identity of the entire franchise moving forward. Do you think Nikki should stay the central character? Would multiple storylines make the sequel stronger, or does the emotional weight depend entirely on her journey? Release date. Right now, Obsession 2 does not have an official release date, but industry estimates suggest a possible window around late 2028 or even 2029. This delay is mainly due to director Curry Barker's current schedule, as he is focused on other projects before fully returning to the sequel. The first film itself took around 2 years from early development to release, which suggests a similar or even longer production cycle for the sequel. At this stage, Obsession 2 is still in early development, meaning writing, casting, filming, and post-production are all still ahead. While this long timeline may feel frustrating for fans, it also gives the creators more time to refine the story and avoid rushing the project, which could ultimately lead to a stronger final film. Still, the uncertainty around timing makes it hard to predict how audience excitement will hold over the years. Do you think a long wait improves sequels or damages hype? Would you still be excited after years of delay? Or does timing matter more than quality? Obsession 2 is shaping up to be a slow-burning but carefully built horror sequel, rather than a rushed follow-up to success. With early development already underway, a growing connected universe forming, and major creative decisions still in progress, everything about this sequel is still evolving. Nothing is fully locked yet, from story structure to cast direction to final release timing. And maybe that's what makes it even more interesting. Because in horror, uncertainty is often where the real tension begins. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.